I wish you'd have clicked record. We should just click record. We shouldn't even say anything. We should just. You just actually asked me. I heard of Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't think I've ever been so insulted before. Like, I know my gaming knowledge is limited, but not that limited. Like, that's a character from culture.
You've
Yes,
heard
I've
of
heard
the Hedgehog. Have you heard of his sidekick, Tails?
I know he has a sidekick. I didn't know what his name was, though.
His sidekick is Tails. That's his nickname. His actual name is Miles Prower.
Oh, that very clever. Bravo.
I didn't get that joke until about a year ago.
That's your Paul Bearer moment.
Effectively, yes. Well, we were talking about our shirts earlier. You wear your Awesome Beat the Party one. I'm not going.
Proud of it. I don't know why I don't do. And I know I'm wearing Bishop shirts. I think I got 2 more. Apparently, there's only 5. I thought there was 6. He corrected me on my math skills, so I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, I was like, why don't I just wear my? I got plenty of indie shirts. I'm wanting to promote. Why don't I be wearing these on the bonus material?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But the reason I'm asking you about if you've heard of Sonic the Hedgehog or not is because last night I was playing some D&D. Now bear with me, this is important. Okay.
Okay.
A character that I was playing last night. His name is Shambles. Mm-hmm. You can see what's going already. He's very sheltered. He's an acolyte who's lived in the temple his whole life, and his culture. They worship the twin-tailed fox.
Ah.
Now the twin-tailed fox is modelled on Tails from Sonic the Hedgehog. Last night when I was playing, Shambles found out something about the religion that he wasn't aware of. So Shambles' heart is kind of broken in half right now. So this is sort of in like Shambles' opinion right now to World is 0 Fox given.
Gotcha. How long were you recording for last night?
We started at just gone 7 and we finished just before 11.
Okay. I like how you mentioned the times because you couldn't actually work out that was 4 hours.
Well, to be fair, it wasn't the whole period of time. We stopped at certain points and everything,
Sure. Yeah, the part that we put out, we'll talk before we click play like we did today, just to kind of catch up a little bit. And then obviously sometimes afterwards as well, we'll talk about stuff as well. So yeah, and I understand that it's not, the running time of the podcast will not be 4 hours.
No, it won't be. Needless to say, it's also not on Visual Media either. It's on Caitlin's website. Their website obviously is at Our Mind Games. So if you watching this, go check out their website because they've got great stuff about D&D, but also video games and mental health. It's really good. It's really good. So
well, if you're doing promotions right now, then I might as well mention that I was with Ricky Goldman, who we had on just over a month ago, at Rick the Rock 30. We were doing our predictions for All Out. So yeah, I posted a tweet yesterday. Go check those out as well. I didn't really know the card that well, but I had things to say. Like I know AEW. Most of the people.
Yeah, I would not have known. I would not have been able to do that one at all, Graham. I have zero interest in All Out. Zero interest.
Well, trying to do the 21-person women's battle royal or whatever, like that's a pretty much a crapshoot, I think. But hey, besides that, most of the other matches I can.
Nice touch, by the way. Seeing as how it's the casino battle royal craps. Nice.
You got me.
All right. Speaking
this week, then, Matt.
Well, I wanted to use that as a perfect segue, Graham, because I've been listening to something rather exclusive the last 24 hours.
You have, yeah.
We talked
about it last week, yeah.
Exactly. So I was very blessed to get advanced listen of the new MGB format. Mm-hmm. And I have notes about the actual concept. I have notes about what you guys were talking about because I always do.
You're reviewing it before it's even released. I was actually thinking of bringing the young man down himself, but I was like, it's a little inconvenient. So I was like, hey, because I know we don't have nice little segments on the bonus thing, so I'll play bits to. And also, I didn't know how PG friendly you were going to be, or if you were like it effing sucks. And I was like, I don't need him to be here for that part. So I was like, I'll find out what you say.
I would, even if there were things that needed improving, Graham, I would never say that. I'll never say that, but ever.
You've been a little potty mouthed on a few recent episodes, considering we started as a PG podcast.
On Good Cop, Bad Cop, yes. I try not to swear on this.
Okay.
Right. Now, where to begin? Where's my notebook? It's not to hand, I have to do it from memory. Okay.
All those notes for nothing.
I say memory, Graham. It's sort of.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so first of all, Graham, you got booed by your co-host.
I did?
He booed you. Yeah, he booed you because you wouldn't lay down, take an elbow drop.
Okay.
Curiously, is that video footage actually been taken yet, or you get to do that? Of you throwing something or not?
We're just working through things right now. All right, next.
I'm trying to not allude to stuff because I guess it's going to come out at some point. So I'm trying to not.
I am wondering, like, how much. Is there any point even listening if we ever do? Like, we haven't even decided if we're ever even going to release it, but it was more of a practice one. But there's no reason why it can't come out. Like, it holds its value whenever we choose to release it. That was kind of one of the bonus things. One of the reasons.
One thing, there are a few very good things that came out of this that I noticed. One, Mason's voice. My word, it's got deeper recent times.
Well, you've been listening to the hiatus episodes recently, so that might have kind of reminded you what he sounded like 3 years ago. But
it did a little bit. But to be fair, it was impressive. The sass that kid's now got. By the way, he's more than happy to go toe to toe with you with in terms of sass for sure. So much so that apparently you took a nap during the recording. He said.
I don't know what he was talking. There were certain things when he was talking, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're going on about right now. But he's prepared to ad lib. He's prepared to kind of create a character, and it's great. I was like, I'm sure I'll go with it. I'll go along with it. But yeah, like he's not telling 100% the literal truth now, which is something I think 10-year-old Mason would have done all the time.
Which is Corey. Which is what Corey. He's the Corey Graves MGB, right? Okay. I have to agree with Mason about something. It would be a waste of money to pay $40 to watch Punk.
I agree. I'm not, but I said it's the closest I've ever been to wanting to pay $40.
Yes. Black Panther was great, Graham. I'm sorry. I don't get what you didn't like about it. You actually have to let a story develop for more than half an hour.
I didn't like it. I know the type of genre of films that I like and what I don't like. And I know that I could tell straight away, I was like, nope, don't like this.
And yet you watched Logan.
I watched what, sorry?
And yet you watched Logan.
I watched Logan, yeah.
I thought Logan film.
I've never seen any of the X-Men films.
You said, I quote you, the X-Men film was good. I quote that one. My next quote is, which one was it you watched, Graham? There's been 12.
I didn't. I watched like part of one. I don't know. I have no idea which one it was. I think it was on television, and I saw a little bit, but I don't think I particularly disliked it, but I don't know. I think it was one of those things that was just on. I caught a little bit. It might have gone out somewhere, and then it's just one of those ones I never watched. Perhaps that's one I'll go back and watch. I don't know.
That's fair. But there are worse films than that to watch. Of course,
it's not the superhero genre that I don't like. I like the superhero genre, so it's not that. But it was just, I don't know. It just didn't click with me, and I know that if it doesn't click with me, then I'm not wasting time on stuff. We keep saying this with wrestling. Why would you watch something that you don't like? And same with that start of that film. I didn't like the start of the film, so I'm not. It was a long film from what I remember as well. It was like 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Not at the speed I watch, but hey.
Okay, and Mason's wrong, I'm afraid, about the amount of swearing that was in Logan.
I didn't. I honestly couldn't remember.
He said that the F bomb was about 20 F bombs. He was wrong. 43.
See, I don't remember it. Say I had subtitles because I don't listen with sound.
It is rated R in America.
Yeah, I think I gave him wrong. To be honest, the things that I saw in it was, even if I hadn't known it was R, he has watched R-rated material before. It depends on what the R-rated material is. Now, for language, I'm not so concerned because if you've heard a couple of words, then what difference does it make with 40? Like, he's not going around school repeating those. And the violent side of it, Matt, come on. When you were younger as well, you didn't wait until you were 18 to watch an 18-rated film either. You were probably even younger than Mason was right now when you started watching, and so was I.
Actually, I wasn't allowed to. Actually, no, my mum had a very strict hand until yeah.
You didn't rent any DVDs from Blockbuster or whatever the store was in England?
Only ones I was allowed to rent because my block, because they wouldn't let you rent it because I didn't card.
I used to be able to pick whatever I wanted, and then my mom would just go and check them out. And I I watched R-rated films way before I was 18.
My mum did a very good thing is that when we were growing up, to give us some responsibility, she said, "Okay, you can have a card, but you can be responsible for it." So we had to go check our own stuff out, and of course, they asked for our ID before we went out. So no, Graham, I didn't.
Wow, given the chance, you would have done that. It was only because your mum made that restriction.
Probably, I can't say, Graham. I did in person now, of course. I mean, bear in mind, that was 21.
He only watches those films. Like most of the ones we try and like, he wants to watch. Obviously, teenagers, they want to watch the edgiest things they can. So as a 13-year-old now, like PG-13, like that's kind of like he would much prefer to watch that than he would something with PG. So if it's an appropriate one, then see, I had previewed this. It wasn't like I just randomly let him have it. I watched it and I was like, when you see somebody with gosh, Wolverine's like his hand. Like when you've seen somebody slash like that, well, you realize that's obviously not real life because nobody can physically do that. And I think that makes it slightly different, as opposed to a film that I saw last night where there's a pissed off dad who just goes around basically killing everybody he sees. Then that's a little bit. I guess that's more plausible. And I didn't recommend. I haven't let him watch that one. So I think the superhero type character ones are a little different for him to watch personally, but hey.
Adult when you were growing up and I was growing up, are now very much not. I'm trying to think on the top of my head. There was a very famous cowboy film growing up, Graham. Help me out here. Had John Wayne in it.
I've only ever seen one John Wayne film, so I'm going to be
a lot of his films were a 12A. Now look at them, you're like, why? Sort of thing. And
yeah, I would agree. And there's some that's the reverse that would be PG when they came out in the 80s, and when you actually listen back to them now, it's like, just because times have changed and they're not necessarily as appropriate.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, it makes me quite happy seeing something change. I mean, the ESRB, which is how video games are rated. I've said it multiple times. It first came around because of the game Mortal Kombat, and also because obviously blood was coming out of computer-generated characters. Okay, we know it's not real. Okay, come on. But there's also this a video. What's it called? I'm gonna have to ask the Oracle here. Chris, what's those games from the 90s which were FMV, full motion video games, they were basically. Mm-hmm. So basically a film would play and you'd choose options and the story would continue based on that basically. Mm-hmm. And there's this infamous one called Night Trap.
Okay.
Night Trap at the time was rated 18 worldwide. Germany, it was illegal to own a copy.
Ooh.
Australia banned it completely as well. In fact, it's still banned in Australia. Now, if you were to go and watch that, you would say that's PG.
Yeah, sure.
And the weird part about it is that the story, yes, it's cheesy. The acting is laughable at times. I kind of liked it in a way. Thing is, though, if you want to actually, you can't watch the story, because you've got to take care of the augurs, vampires, that are creeping around these girls in, let's say, what at the time was classed as appropriate clothing.
Okay.
Not that maybe what a PG rating was there now, but and it's, you've got to stop the vampires so you don't get to listen to the story. You don't get to see the story, so it's, and literally if you make too many errors or let too many vampires go, then you lose automatically, have to restart again. This is the day before you could save your game. Kids watching this, before saving the game is something that came around the last 20 years. We grew up out it. We had to play from the start every time.
I don't know what computer versions you've had. We used to be able to save on tape. It wasn't necessarily the quickest way, I don't think, but you
saving like onto a memory card or that only became a real big thing in 1995 onwards, for home consoles. On like PC and thing, obviously goes back. That's obviously a different thing, of course, but no, something where you could just like plug out and get to another console sort of thing.
Like instantaneous,
yeah,
or pretty much instantaneous.
That only became a thing in 1995. Mega Drive, that's what I grew up on. The Genesis in America. Very few games had saving ability. They give you a passcode you had to enter, and at the time we had codes written all over things like we'd code that one for. We'd code that one for. Yeah, that was fun in our house, I tell you.
I remember.
I'm really showing my age now, aren't I?
I remember that. Okay. So anyway, in terms of MGB, then, what are you going to tell us? What parts are going to work? What parts are not going to work? Are we okay to release it? I released it unedited. I think you realise that part. Like literally, I threw the sound at the start, I threw the intro at the end, and then I just sent it to you guys.
I think that if you were to put the music in between the matches you do, I actually think that would break up the flow.
Okay.
I quite liked Vroom. I quite liked it for that.
And I thought about that. And I was like, yeah, no. Because it was a little different from, if we were doing a review, then there's kind of like natural stops. But for this, it wasn't quite. So I don't think we've actually even explained what the format is. So my kind of idea was, like, I've been picking stuff, and then Mason, and then we're going, all right, Mason, let's record. And I wanted to stop doing that. Like, it's supposed to be his podcast. 3.5 years in, he should be able to, on weeks when we don't have reviews, he should be able to pick out what the content is. So the idea was, rather than trying to prep, was literally I switched IWTV on and we pressed record, and then we just basically scrolled through and we're just like, hey, let's have a look at what's the first event they have on, is there any matches there? We kind of read through the matches. I don't think the first one there was anything that interested him, and then we went to the second one, and then he said, oh, I want to see that match. I'm like, sure, let's go ahead and watch it. Click. And then we just reviewed the matches it was going on. So it was definitely a watch along. We clicked on another one. There was 3 other matches, and we said, "Oh, I like all 3. I like 3 of these." And we clicked on. We didn't even necessarily go from the start. It's certainly not a full review. Like one of the matches, I think we literally caught the last 5 minutes of it. And Matt, I loved it. I loved I think I told you on chat. I've never seen him as enthusiastic about wrestling since he started watching wrestling, doing it this way. Like he had control of which matches we could see. We didn't feel the need to watch the whole thing. We watch what we want. If we find a match that we don't like, we'll just skip it. But as it was last night, they were fine. The ones that we saw, we enjoyed. We had no idea what was coming up. I didn't know what he was going to pick. I deliberately didn't try and look too far ahead because I didn't want to influence it at all. So I didn't review at all. That was my downside. My role normally is to provide some additional facts about the person because I'll research them ahead of time. I didn't do that for this one. So 0 prep from me as well. We had a blast. If you tell me this doesn't work, then we would probably still do something different, but obviously we wouldn't release it, I don't think. Or we would use it for our hiatus episodes, I guess, is what I'm saying. So we had something to put out.
Yeah. I personally feel that this works quite well. I think it's now just a case of do it when you need to do it sort of thing. I think it's quite a good thing. Like you said, that you could probably do 2 or 3 of these at a time sometimes, and that would work quite well.
Yeah, we can. I would say nobody's going to care the fact that this indie match was last month. That I don't think that's important. I also don't think specifically it's important what matches we review either, because obviously once we started playing it, we were talking about other things as well. You got included in it. We started talking about Space Jam again and things like that. I was like, this is my impression of what MGB should be. Like, we're not talking about wrestling necessarily, but that was the original thing. It was a dad and his son talking. And wrestling was kind of the framework for it, but we talked about other stuff as well. And I felt that when we recorded last night, considering that was kind of like a first try, we were fine. It was over 50 minutes. I think it was like 51 minutes. Like, and not one point did it kind of feel contrived, like, oh shoot, we should just wrap this up at this point. This is not. I thought it would
feel laboured.
Yeah, no, it didn't feel.
No.
Yep, and that was always what it was on the original MGB. Like, we used to talk in the car. That's what started this. We're like, hey, what's the difference? Me talking to you in the car about wrestling and sitting in front of a microphone talking about wrestling. And that kind of felt like the same thing last night. It was like, hey, we can talk about other things as well. If there's a low point in the match, we can always talk about other stuff as well. And yeah, all right. So we got one thumbs up anyway, it sounds like.
Indeed, your other reviewer can get back to you when they've had a chance to do so for sure. Okay, what do you want to talk to me about apart from MGB?
Oh, let me have a look. Yeah, Micah actually asked, he's like, what do I have to do to be on this panel? And I was like, I can send it to you. I was like, that's perfectly okay. Now, I was actually wondering about one thing. It is possible this week has kind of been there's been obviously a very major story that was a real bad cop moment that I'm sure is going to, in fact, I don't even like using that phrase. It's far too serious of an issue. I'm sure we're going to be talking about Daphne Younger at some point. So I really wanted to pick, to balance it out, something really positive that I saw. So I actually saw a story from Seth Rollins. He talked about when he met AJ Styles in his early career. I don't need to read through the whole thing, but basically he was like 18, 19. I think he's working a show out in Iowa. AJ Styles was on the card. I'm trying to think the differences in their age. About 8, 9 years, Matt? Does that sound about right? Something like that?
Give or take. I think give or take, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm guessing like AJ was like 26, 27 at this point. So I'm guessing he's established then at this point. And I'm guessing that means he's probably been on Impact for a few years as well. Anyway, They had a match. The day after, they had another match in a different place. AJ got flown to the event, like 6 hours, and Seth, being the 18, 19-year-old rookie, had to go ahead and drive to that event. Anyway, I guess they talked, they chatted, and they kind of shared different things. And the second night, I guess they were at some restaurant or something, and AJ actually paid for both of their 2 meals. And he kind of said that it stuck with him. And when he talked about it, I want to see if I can find that quote. AJ picked up our meal tab because he knew we were younger guys just trying to make it in the industry, and he still paid for our food, and he didn't have to. I told him thank you. He said, anything you need, we'll be there for you and stuff, and he just told us to pass it on. And I just like that fact that even as 26, that's not really one of the kind of older people in that industry. But I just like the fact that AJ's one of those people, and I think Seth's really took it on board as well, and he's kind of passed it on. And just the fact that we need more people like that in the industry. I know I've heard stories like Ethan Page, when like he's been paid flight money, and he's basically just driven so he can go with the rookies and he can kind of talk with them. And I know that people who he's done that for have like really appreciated it. But I always like to hear when there's positive stories about wrestlers who are not just looking out for themselves. I know you think CM Punk came back for the money. We talked about that last week. But I like the fact that there are wrestlers who are not just doing it for that. They're also looking out for other people as well. And just because other people get better, it doesn't detract from them being great either. So it was just a positive story that I saw. The only other thing I did have for you, I saw one quote. I was going to ask you about this, but we only have a few minutes. John Cena said this week, Brock Lesnar might be the greatest WWE star ever.
So he bring the money in.
Yeah, he does, yeah. I was just wondering, not wanting to tread on the toes of a podcast that doesn't do this anymore, but just wondering whether Brock would feature in your Mount Rushmore even. Would he be in your top 4?
Well, I've got to say he wasn't on mine, but he was on my fiance's when we guested on that show together. He actually did make it, and he will be a Hall of Famer one day. He could be.
Oh, sure.
Brock Lesnar could well be the greatest athlete that's ever been in WWE, for sure. I mean, yes, all he does is toss people around the ring nowadays, but he can wrestle. He can actually wrestle. Cool. He can actually fight. And I mean,
he's a college wrestler. Yeah.
Yeah.
College wrestler.
Exactly, but if you want an example of how good this guy is, Paul Heyman told this story. I'm going to paraphrase it slightly. When Brock left in 2004, went to train with Minnesota Vikings. A week before he was due to go to camp, he flipped his motorcycle, tore his groin, and was bruised black and purple up his body. I think
they were the Vikings' colours.
Think he pulled lots of muscles as well. He turned up to camp. They also wired his jaw, and he actually cut off with a pair of pliers.
Oh gosh.
Himself. He turned up at camp, and with all of those injuries, and run the 100-yard dash in Olympic qualifying time.
Wow. I wouldn't have expected that. Wow.
Think of the enormity of that. I mean, granted, that is getting on for nearly 20 years ago. But Brock Lesnar, he's not stupid.
Mm-mm.
Brock Lesnar has made a enormous amount of money out of wrestling, enormous amount of money out of MMA. But he's very. But let's face it, it's not going to be long. I mean, did going to play football go work? It didn't work out for him on that occasion. But you can't win them all.
No.
But for me, Brock Lesnar could well be considered in that bracket of being possibly one of the greatest to ever lace up the boots.
Considering his longevity as well, we're talking 20 years now. It's like
he debuted in 2002, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you wanted to think an example of how good he is, when Paul Heyman was originally booked to produce his dark matches before he got called up to Raw properly, he was asked to pick 2 opponents for the dark matches. So he chose Funaki and Spike Dudley.
Okay.
People think he's this stupid cornbread idiot from South Dakota. He threw them any which way but Sunday, and probably on Sunday too. And by doing so, got to show he's all about. Brock Lesnar is a machine. And if he's not the greatest WWE champion of all time, he's in the conversation.
Absolutely. All right, Matt, we better wrap it up because we've actually got the show proper to record. So
absolutely, we'll see you guys. I will be here next week, guys. So I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. Oh, we have a very special show, but no spoilers right now. But yes, we have a special show planned.
Indeed, I'm leaving the show in capable hands, which means I'm not even editing next week. It's fantastic.
You hope.
We're out of here.